She'oso nisim lavoseinu b'yomim oheim bazman hazeh. Hanukkah, we light the Menorah, and we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the miracles. And which miracles are we referring to? Well, firstly, obviously, ala nisim, ala purkon, ala gvuros, ala teshuos, ala milchomos. We're talking about the miracle of being victorious on the battlefield, outnumbered and outgunned against the Syrian Greeks. The Hashmonaim, Yehuda Maccabee and his army were successful beyond all expectations and was able to drive them out of Israel and restore Malchus Yisrael. A great achievement, and that is certainly something to be thankful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for. But the question is, what about the other nace, the nace of the Pach HaShemen, the little jug of oil that lasted for 8 days? Why was that necessary? Why did we need this miracle at all? The Maharal already 500 years ago wrote a whole sefer called Ner Mitzvah, asking this question. What's the point of this nace? It wasn't necessary. We could really have lit the menorah a few days later. Nothing would have happened. Or we could have made some oil on the spot, taken a jug full, a bucket full of olives, the olive trees all over Jerusalem, and crushed them and made a little bit of oil. Why did it take 8 days? What is the significance of the 8 days of the jug of oil, and why is that so important? There are two answers I'd like to suggest. The first one is that the military victory in and of itself is open to interpretation. One could have looked at, and this is very, very contemporary, you can look at military victories in modern Israel. And you can think, wow, look at that. Amazing tactics, amazing courage, amazing weaponry, and look how wonderful our soldiers are. And not see the Yad Hashem. We need to be able to have the eyes, v'sechazena einenu b'shuv choletzion v'rachamim. So the Mefarshim, what does it mean, v'sechazena einenu? We're dabbling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not only that the Yeshua should come to Klal Yisrael, but that we should have the eyes to see the Yad Hashem. Eliyahu Hanavi in Har Carmel, daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Anenu Hashem Aneni. Why twice Aneni? Aneni to provide a miracle, and the second Aneni to give us the eyes to see the Yad Hashem in human affairs. And therefore we needed the Nes Pach HaShemen came as a sort of a seal of approval to tell Klal Yisrael this victory that has been won on the battlefield wasn't just a result of the courage and power of the soldiers, but it was special Hashgacha Pratis. Especially in light of the fact that there were problems with this battle. First of all, Kohanim were fighting the battle, which normally Kohanim are not allowed to fight in the wars, not allowed to have contact with dead bodies. Secondly, there were lots of Jews, sadly, who were killed by the Hashmonaim because they were the Misiavnim. This wasn't only a battle against the Greeks, it was a battle against the Jews who had assimilated to become Greeks. So there might have been lots of question marks asked about this victory ala nisim ala purkon. So therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu provided the second nace of the Pach HaShemen to tell us, no, this is all min hashamayim. This is purely in order to create Kedusha in Klal Yisrael. That's one way of looking at it. Another way, which is maybe a little bit more profound and interesting, is that we have actually got a very complex relationship with Hellenism and the Greek culture. Completely different to the attitude of the Torah against, say, Avodah Zarah. When Klal Yisrael experienced Avodah Zarah in Mitzrayim, in Canaan, in Bavel, so in all these places, the Avodah Zarah, the Torah says, as Matzei Vosehem to Shabeiron, you should smash their places of worship. Asherehem to Gadeon, you've got to uproot their trees. You've got to smash it all down, it's all sheker, it's all evil, you've got to destroy it completely. Our opposition to Avodah Zarah was total. When it comes to Yovon is a different story completely. There, Chazal darshan a pasuk in Bereshis chapter 9, Yaft Elokim liyefes for Yishkon ba'olei Shem, that actually the beauty, Yefes was the ancestor of Yovon, and Yefes means beauty. That Yovon represented beauty, beauty in culture, beauty in architecture, beauty in poetry, beauty in every field of life, the aesthetics. That beauty is not something which is completely pasul. It's not something completely objectionable. But what it has to happen to it has to be Yafta Lekim Liyefes. It has to be taken and used v'yishkan ba'olei Shem. It has to be used by Shem for Avodas Hashem. So here we find an interesting, complex relationship with the achievements of Hellenist culture. Right? In modern Hebrew, there are two words which sound the same, but actually are quite different. The word imut with an ayin means confrontation and clash, that you oppose something directly. But imut with an aleph comes from the word emes, which means to verify something, to look for the truth in it. And our relationship to Yovam was both imut with an ayin and imut with an aleph. That Chazal were looking for the elements of Greek culture which they could import into Torah life. And indeed, lots of words Chazal use come originally from Greek. The word afikomen means dessert in Greek. If the word sandek at a bris means a companion in Greek. The word apotropos means a guardian in Greek. They use Greek terminology all over the place. Not only that, they use Greek mathematics. And here comes an interesting thing. If you were a thinking Jew 2,200 years ago, living in Israel, under the Greek Empire, and the Hellenist culture was slowly sweeping its way across the Greek Empire, and suddenly you found out the amazing mathematical writings of Euclid and Archimedes and Pythagoras, and that is wisdom and chokhmah, something like you've never seen before in your life. And then you found out about the architecture, the Acropolis, and the Temple of Zeus and Temple of Apollo, and the beauty of the Olympus, Mount Olympus, and the Olympic Games, and the sculpture and the art. You'd be completely mesmerized by it. And then, of course, you read the philosophers of Plato, Socrates, Zeno, and all the other Greek thinkers, and you suddenly realize this is a chokhmah beyond something you've ever seen before in your life. And for a moment, you could think that this chokhmah was superior to the Torah. And that was the tipping point at which the Hanukkah story arrived, in order to show Klal Yisrael that actually all these achievements of the Greeks had something to them. But the problem was Hellenist culture used all these great achievements as an end in themselves. This was something, it was art for art's sake, and wisdom for wisdom's sake, and philosophy, the word means the love of wisdom for the sake of wisdom. None of it was used for a higher purpose. For the simple reason, the Greeks, even though they admitted that there was an infinite God who was omnipotent and omniscient, but they didn't believe that he was in the slightest bit interested in mankind. There was no point of contact between the infinite world of God and the finite world of man. So they denied completely, they didn't deny the existence of God, they denied hashgacha. They denied God's involvement in this world. There's a beautiful line in the Malbim, in his commentary on the first paragraph of Hallel. When you say it on Hanukkah, you can bear this in mind. The Pasuk says, Rom al kol goyim Hashem. All the goyim, except the Rom. Rom means elevated, transcendent. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they accept a transcendent God, but what? They believe ala shamayim kavoidei, that he exists in the world of the infinite, and therefore he's not interested in what we think and what we do, and there's no reward and punishment, and there's no tefillah, and there's no nevuah, nothing. That was the basis of their apikorsis and their undermining the hashkafa of the Torah. But our view is, continues the paragraph of Tehillim, Mik Hashem Elokeinu bihi lo Shabbos. Indeed, we accept that HaKadosh Baruch Hu resides in the world of the infinite, but mashpili liros b'shamayim v'oretz. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is involved in the oretz, in human affairs. Mekimi me'afadol, me'ashbas yorim evyon, l'shivim medivim. All the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, hashkacha pratis. The involvement of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in human life, that is really the great chiddush, in a sense, that the Torah perspective takes all the chokhmah of Yavam and uses it as a tool in Avodas Hashem. And this is really the great attitude that Chazal have had throughout and to this very day. We are surrounded still by Greek culture and Hellenism. We're surrounded by the worship of beauty, the worship of art, the worship of culture, the worship of science and technology and architecture. But the chokhmah of the Torah is to say we need to use it and take it for Avodas Hashem. Yaft Elokim liyefes v'yishkoin ba'ohol Hashem. It's only in the Ohol Hashem that the beauty of Yefes and Yovon can find a purpose and a meaning. And that is really the purpose of the little Pach Hashemen, to teach us, actually, that Hashgacha Pratis of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the involvement of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, gives us a different perspective on life. And that, says the Maharal in the Sefer that he wrote on this subject called Ner Mitzvah, this, he says, this is the meaning of the number 8. The number 8 takes us lemala min hateva, beyond nature. The whole of Hellenist culture was a study of nature, a portrayal of natural forces, an understanding of natural logic and reason. But the idea of Avodas Hashem, the idea to use it all to connect us to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that was something which they'd never heard of and which they rejected totally. And that is really the nace of the Pach Hashemen. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us no. The Pach Hashemen tells us for 8 days. The 8 is the 8 of the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol with his Shmona Begodim represents the 8, which is Kulei Ruchnius, that we're able to use. There isn't anything in this world that we can't use as a tool in order to bring us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that sense, it's an imut with an ayin and an imut with an aleph. That we're able to use everything that the Greeks ever invented, but take it to a different level totally. And that was the message of the little Pach Hashemen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to tell us now that involvement of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is total. In all our affairs, we live in a world of Hashgacha Pratis, and with that, the indestructibility of Klal Yisrael is guaranteed. The little jug of oil represents the inner strength of Klal Yisrael, which lasts and lasts and lasts beyond the Teva, into the world of the 8, into the world of the infinite. And that is the bracha of Hanukkah and Yerotza, that indeed we should enjoy and feel the presence of the Nisim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing with us. Even though it was by Yamim Ahaim, it's still Bazman Hazeh, V'chein Yerotza.